Hello, hello. This is Azizi Podcast. Hold on, I forgot to close my door. Just a second. Sorry, I'm recording next to my washroom, how they say it in Canada. For you Americans, washroom in Canada is basically a restroom. Alright, on my handy dandy fancy schmancy H2 Zoom recorder, there's only one bar left for the battery, so I hope we're not gonna get disconnected, but if we will, no worries. I am a tech magician. I will fix this. Anyways, welcome to Azizi Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget to subscribe to any of the platforms that you're listening to. Subscribe to my podcast. I am now available on Pandora as well, even though no one's using that app anymore, but they just approved me, so I'm on Pandora. If you're one of those oldies who are using Pandora and listening to those ads, now you can listen to my podcast and listen to the ads there as well. And I'm also on Audible and Amazon, which I'm very proud about, and everywhere else. So subscribe. You know what? Just subscribe on any platform, Stitcher, Spotify. I'm on Spotify as well. Of course, I have a YouTube channel, which is amazing. I just broke 65,000, 66,000 views for one of my videos, so that's a huge milestone. I don't know if I'll ever beat it. Probably will. But anyways, developing the YouTube channel as well, so that's been pretty good. It's a solo podcast. It's a thought of the day, kind of type of episodes that I haven't had for a long time. But it's the end of 2020, and I thought I'll just mumble, bamble, rumble on this episode and just spit out my thoughts. And I have a little exercise for you guys as well. So if you want to do that, it's from a very cool guy that I follow, and he's my inspiration as well. His name's Tim Ferriss, the author of For Our Workweek and For Our Body and a bunch of other stuff as well. He has some cool things, so we're gonna talk about that. But overall, I just wanted to sort of talk a little bit about what's happening right now, and just sort of like as a conclusion episode. I hope it's going to be like on the positive side, because I'm definitely I'm an okay mood. Definitely, so that's kind of the theme, like I woke up this morning, I was like, huh, you know what? Things could have been much worse, and I'm so happy that they're not as bad as they could have been. And it's just not just, the global things, right? It's just my life and all of that, It's just, thank goodness my family is okay. I'm okay. My friends are fine. No one is really suffering in terms of people who I know, and I'm really, really thankful for that, because I know that a lot of people are going through a lot of some, just horrible things, and I hope they will overcome it. But I'm just so thankful, and I'm just not gonna knock on wood, and anything can happen. But for now, it seems like everything is okay, and for now, it's awesome. So yeah, boy. Speaking of boy, man, I just finished the God of War game. Uh, it kind of started slow, and I was like, "What the hell is this? Why is everyone was praising that game?" But then as it went, I kind of like it grew on me, and I think it's mostly like the influence still like a little bit that everyone kind of like praised it. But I beat it, and it was pretty cool. I liked it. I liked the whole thing. I know I'm kind of like 3 years late to the party, but that's how I roll. I don't follow the hype. I just play that. So, anyways, check out God of War. I watched so much analysis after that, as I spent like 15 hours on YouTube just watching interviews from the director, producers, and everyone who can like share some thoughts on the creation of this game. Gaming industry, man. I feel like we're just in the beginning, just the beginning of the gaming industry. There's gonna be so much more about that. But anyways, cool game. Check it out. I'm listening to soundtrack from God of War now every day in the morning. I'm like waking up like a freaking Viking, getting my coffee, getting my tea, ooh, vitamin D, ooh, B12, ooh, cod oil, ooh. I know, I'm just stuffing myself with all that supplement. Anyways, yeah, so as I was saying, things are not that bad. Even the winter is not as cold so far, even though it kind of makes me think it's gonna get super cold at some point soon. But, so that's pretty much it. Overall, some things this year, oh man, now I have the freaking heater that I forgot to turn off. See, that's why I need to have a list. Just a second, guys. Thanks for the wait. Yeah, like I have all these freaking things that create noise in my room, and I don't have in my studio. Um, and I don't have like the noise cancellation stuff. So even though my friends just got me one for Secret Santa, so that's pretty cool. Just need to figure out how to use it properly. But anyways, some things didn't turn out as they were supposed to this year. I had one life planned, and it turned out to be slightly different. And it's very sad. And not to get into this, but we can count it as maybe a postponement rather than cancellation. One would think, but if not, then it is what it is. It's life, and once again, it's nothing too serious, too dramatic, and overall, yeah. So, just to summarize, the podcast life was actually pretty active. Surprisingly, at some point, I just went through my calendar, which I'll talk about later a little bit, and I saw all the guests that I've been inviting for my video episodes since February of this year, and it was crazy. It started right before the pandemic. I was inviting a bunch of people over for breakfast. We had some little preliminary meetings. Complete strangers. Never knew about them. Just knew about them by social media, which was a great experience. I remember Tyler Boxton, the promoter for United Promotions, was over. Then Yvette Raposo, the ring announcer, was here as well. And yeah, this is kind of like how it started. And I then went through all my calendars and I saw all the guests. And especially when the pandemic started, I started doing the Zoom ones, even though like I don't do them right now because I got a little tired of those. But that gave me so much opportunities to talk to so many interesting people. Claudia Trejas, Michelle J. Phelps, Tom Loeffler, Michael Montero, everyone, and Jerry Caceres. It's just like a lot of people there, which is just amazing. I just created a list. I just wrote down a list of all my guests for this year, and wow, if nothing, or how do you say it in English? If not for nothing, this podcast is an amazing tool to gain great connections and great friends, and just be in that kind of circles. So I don't know, if you guys haven't started a podcast yet, I definitely recommend it. And I guess my main rule, if you are starting a podcast, would be just take it easy, just have fun. Don't beat yourself up too much. Don't worry about the quality too much. My sister started a podcast recently, and she actually went to like seminars and stuff. And I was telling her like, hey, all that quality stuff comes later. The main thing why people come to you and to listen to you is if you have something interesting to say. So as long as you have an interesting content, the quality is a secondary point. Like, for example, the Fistianata spot by Evan Radkowski, who is head of boxing at the Ring TV. His quality, I was always making fun of him. Like his microphone is not the best, and I would always like DM him. I was like, hey, like here's the microphone options for you or whatever. I was trying to help him out. But anyways, he's not doing the podcast anymore, unfortunately, because he's too busy with the boxing stuff. But the quality of his content, man, the way he provided certain details about this part of boxing, about how business is done, about what kind of metrics you look at when you see if the event is successful, if there's a return on investment and all of that. That's exactly what I was interested in, and what I'm still interested in is how do you make money in boxing, right? How do you, like, yeah, it's like, it's one thing for a boxer to win, but like in order to make money, there's supposed to be so many people involved in that, this gigantic pie, and everyone takes its share and all of that. And I was really fascinated by the fact, basically by the idea of how it's getting done. And just a side note, I think how I see boxing right now in terms of, a moneymaker or in terms of just a business, it's an event management. It's done on the single event management basis. So there's like one thing, one budget, and you just do it one by one, as opposition to like a UFC, for example. Dana White's MMA, whatever, UFC, like how he does it. I think it's a little different. It's more like a scheduled thing. It's there's less negotiations because everything is in control by one, I would say, a little oligopoly, I would say. But anyways, so boxing is an event management. So you really are, if you are doing this, you are as good as your previous event, and you are as good as like in terms of how you organize your events. That's why Tom Loeffler is always so successful in all of that, because he knows how to navigate a lot of how we say in Russian, underwater rocks, right? So he knows ins and outs and all of that. So that's why I respect him so much, because I've seen personally how he organizes events and all the moving parts and moving pieces and talks and negotiations and emails and all that. it's a lot of it's very hard. So definitely props to him for that. Anyways, so yeah, so podcast overall is doing great. I know that I sort of slacked, and for a good reason. I started a new job, so and it's in a completely different industry. Used to be an accountant, now I'm in advertising, and so I had to like catch up really quickly. And I think I'm more or less kind of now more understanding the industry and how certain things working. But it took me some time, so I had to really focus on work. Even though I did some stuff with the podcast as well, I definitely had to balance my time a little bit more. So yeah, sometimes starting from like after checking my calendar, like May, I got a little so yeah, basically the podcast was not as frequent, but I'm still proud that I never dropped the project. If anything, I've invested more money in it. I've bought like a very expensive equipment and all of that. I got recently like a new digital camera for my web streams, like online commentating on different events. Which is funny how it works. Something happens and you don't. It's never like your format, but all of a sudden it's the most successful thing ever. Like my thing, the whole thing. Even YouTube messaged me. They're like, "Yo, like your video is like the traction increased by 6,000%. So congrats, and here's what it means." So they're all like kind of like, I like how YouTube have a system once you get viral. It's like, okay, don't freak out. Here's what's happening. Don't like it's a one-off or what. Like they kind of like explaining to you like, okay, like this is why it's happening. And I'm particularly proud that my video, it was about Canelo Smith commentary, was purely content, purely original. I did not use anything at all except my commentary, my voice, and my face. One thing though, it wasn't Russian, so I can't really freaking hold on a second. I can't really like, I don't know, show off to my American friends because they don't understand what I was talking about. But I am realizing that there is some potential in me speaking in Russian because I did listen to myself several times. I gave an interview to Moscow State University and I recorded myself as well. And despite me like living abroad for the last 11 years, I think I have some good Russian in me, like in terms of articulation and pronunciation, all of that. I sound interesting, so I might explore that area more. However, now I'm thinking like, okay, is it a good idea to mix Russian and English in one channel and all that? But it's for another thing, for another podcast. But basically, yes. So this is where the podcast is going. Probably gonna be more Russian stuff on YouTube. We'll see how this is gonna be, accepted. I'm more worried about Americans because I have, subscribers who are not Americans but English speakers who are English speakers, and then if they will see something in Russian, like, will that turn them off or not? And that's why I'm thinking maybe a separate channel makes sense. But for now, my gut feeling tells me like, yo, or like I would say, like, what would Gary Vee say, right? It's like, yo, just do your thing, just do what you like, and it will come to you. The market will decide, the demand will decide, So I will see how it goes. I'm just proud of myself for not dropping this out. Like, it's literally the first time in my life I have a real hobby that I really enjoy, and it actually does bring me some, fruits. I'm getting offers, which is weird, but it's awesome. And it's whether I took those offers or not, it's a different story. And side note, I did not take any offers because I like my independency for now, and especially, it all depends, of course. But for now, I think for me, there's more value in me staying independent rather than, going along and kind of like diluting my brand. However, it all can change. It depends on the project. The first thing is like if the projects are interesting, I won't down. The second thing comes to like numbers and all of that. But anyways, it's amazing. So I'm really happy that people are noticing me, and so far the brand of Azizi Podcast is very good. All my guests are outstanding individuals and very diverse in terms of like what they do and what they talk about in the background and all of that. So I'm very proud of the work that I've done. So it's great. So now that I patted myself on the back, I think the next thing I just wanted to let you know what I'm gonna do is probably, in terms of plans and strategy, I'm going to do the same thing. I'll try to increase the frequency of the podcast. And of course, not going to lie, the whole pandemic thing, it's not helping because, to invite a guest over, you have to do this whole dance and all of that. You have to make sure that everything is okay. You have to make sure there's a distance, there's safety and all of that. So, and people tell me like, hey, like, why don't you do Zooms and all? But to be honest, just a second. I don't know, man. Zooms are... the whole thing about Zoom, like, I think it's fine for an audio podcast, but because I'm duplicating everything on a video, like, and I'm recording this as a video, it's just that weird quality of Zoom I don't like. That's the first thing, two screens side by side. If you want to do it somehow pretty with the graphics, it still looks kind of shitty because even if you will add some freaking lower thirds and all of that, it's you're still getting that weird 720p or even less quality of a Zoom screen for your guest and yourself, and the sound goes down in quality as well. So, plus you have to smile and constantly look at the camera, pretending that you're looking at your audience or whatever. Anyways, it's just so artificial that for me to get back to Zoom, it'll probably be like with Joe Rogan, right? He's like, it should be Edward Snowden for me to get on Zoom or something like that, even though he's using Skype. But anyways, so yeah, like for me to get back on Zoom, like I don't know who it should be. Definitely no one. The only guy I think that I can do Zoom with and be super excited about would be Triple G, Serhii Balachuk as well. Actually, everyone from the camp of of the circle, so to say. Ali Ahmedov, Triple G, Serhii Balachuk, Tom Loeffler. Although with Tom Loeffler, we just did the face-to-face, so I feel like I want to do it that way. Yeah, just the boxers that I like. Like, I totally get why they would do Zooms, so yeah, I would be excited to do Zooms with them. But other than that, I don't know. So yeah, face-to-face is just something that brings me more happiness. Is when I'm talking with the person face to face. So the conversation is actually real. So whatever you get on the recording, whether it's video or audio, you're getting the real stuff. It's the real conversation between two people who are basically having the real face to face, heart to heart. And it involves eye contact, the tracking, and all of that. It's just a different type of gravy, how someone says. All right, so planning to do the same thing, basically, hoping to have more guests. And of course, I've been telling them for a long time, but my idea is, of course, moving away from boxing. Not completely, but making sure that my audience is broadened. So, like, making sure that I'm inviting interesting people from all kinds of industry. And of course, I'm going to pay homage to boxing and, combat sports. And ideally, how I see a ZZ podcast is that I still think that there's some potential in Canada. There's a lot of Canadian boxers or fighters, or at least it's just like this base, especially in Toronto. I mean, Montreal have their own thing, but who knows? But there is potential here. And yes, the COVID thing, just threw it all back, like I'm thinking about like 5 years or something, because everyone's sort of like, I don't know, gassed out on the whole idea a bit. But it was like getting real momentum here for some time. Like when I just arrived here, things were going on. Some things behind the curtains were planning. As far as I was hearing from the people in the industry here, people were really eyeballing the Toronto market and seeing what can be done here. So the thing is, there's no media representation here for combat sports in Toronto for whatever reason. And I was hoping to become that, and I'm still hoping to become that platform for athletes, I would say, in general, to promote themselves, to promote their events on my podcast. You come in on the Azizi podcast, you have a little conversation with me, you promote your show, and hopefully more people know about you, your brand, and your event, and, everyone wins, and the sport wins. So that's still my dream, my idea, and to use my platform as a promotional tool for whoever and whatever, is appropriate. I think that's the best way to put it. Anyways. So, Tim Ferriss thing. Really quickly, I just wanted to share with you something. So how like every year, people will do like New Year resolutions, and they write like stuff like what they want to accomplish in this year and all of that. So I'm doing this too. Although I'm always kind of late. Like I really get like settled in like doing the list sometime in March. Like it takes me 3 months to like actually prepare myself and put everything on paper. But Tim Ferriss, who is, again, I mentioned him before, wrote this article a couple of years ago that I wanted to read to you out loud and see what you may be thinking about that. So here it is. Here's his proposition to counter the whole idea behind New Year's resolution. So the article, and I'll post the link in my show notes as well. The article is called Forget New Year's Resolutions and Conduct a Past Year Review Instead by Tim Ferriss. Okay, I'm often asked about how I approach New Year's resolutions. The truth is that I no longer approach them at all, even though I did for decades. Why the change? I have found past year reviews, PYR, more informed, valuable, and actionable than half blindly looking forward with broad resolutions. I did my first PYR after a mentor's young daughter died of cancer on December 31st, roughly 8 years ago. And I've done it every year since. It takes 30 to 60 minutes and looks like this. First, grab a notepad and create 2 columns, positive and negative. Second, go through your calendar from the last year, looking at every week. Third, for each week, jot down on the pad any people or activities or commitments that triggered peak positive or negative emotions for that month. Put them in their respective columns. Fourth, once you've gone through the past year, look at your notepad list and ask, what 20% of each column produced the most reliable and powerful peaks? Fifth, based on the answers, take your positive leaders and schedule more of them in the new year. Get them on the calendar now. Book things with friends and prepay for activities, events, commitments that you know work. It's not real until it's in the calendar. That's step 1. Step 2 is to take your negative leaders, put not to-do list at the top, and put them somewhere you can see them each morning for the first few weeks of 2021. These are the people and things you know make you miserable. So don't put them on your calendar out of obligation, guilt, FOMO, or other nonsense. That's it. If you try it, let me know how it goes. And just remember, it's not enough to remove the negative. That simply creates a void. Get the positive things on the calendar ASAP, lest they get crowded out by the bullshit and noise that will otherwise fill your days. Good luck and Godspeed. End of the article. Anyways, I'll share this on the show notes, but I thought it's an amazing and wonderful idea. And before I went to bed yesterday, I actually, tried to do that, and I had like a little list. I'm not gonna go over line by line, but honestly, what I've gotten, like the most positive things, it's my podcast guests. It's the people that I've met online and the podcast guests that I also did over Zoom, and just those people that I now know as in like personally are the highlight of my year. Is those relations and those connections that I've gained. And I'm definitely going to, reach out to them and just say what's up and say hi, and maybe we can do something together. But that's how awesome it is, to be a part of this Azizi podcast and just of this other, podcast world and boxing world for that matter as well, because most of them are from the industry of boxing. So overall, that's something that I've done. And, it's also cool to see that overall I have very little negatives in 2020. And I'm really thankful for that. Despite everything that's happening, the negatives are really taking maybe, a couple lines, maybe 3 lines. And they're like really, I don't know. They're kind of trivial. I wouldn't even say they're completely negative. So I don't know. Anyways, I'm fortunate. I hope, this trends will continue in 2021. And I really definitely hope that something amazing will happen in 2021, because I feel like we're long overdue for something, fantastic. So let's hope that this will happen. So that's pretty much it. That's my New Year's last episode of the year for Azizi podcast, and just wanted to share some thoughts. Definitely, let's not be negative, And to be honest, I'm pretty negative, I'm negative a lot of times, but it's something that I'm just kind of like a guy like this. I'm more like on the conservative side. I'm assuming the worst and then trying to prepare, which helped me a lot in life, to prepare, to be strategically smart. But, as I grew older, I'm realizing that you have to balance it out. You have to be more balanced and not to be preachy. So I'm going to finish this right now on the minute number 25. But just wanted to say Happy New Year. Happy holidays. You guys are amazing. If you are listening to this right now, thank you for clicking on that play button. Thank you for clicking on that subscribe button. It's crazy, like someone is committing to your podcast, someone who is on the other side of the planet. And honestly, it's crazy. Like my highest listeners right now. Highest listener. I mean, I hope you're all high. No, I'm sure. I'm just kidding. But I'm, based on what I'm seeing right now in the comments and all of that, a lot of are still from Kazakhstan. There are a lot of people from the United States. I'm getting some traction. I think Australia, and of course my Canada and the fellow Canadians are supporting me as well, and I really appreciate it. So thanks to everyone. Happy New Year. Be positive. Do the whole Tim Ferriss list thing, and let me know in the comments what do you think about that. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to read them. All right, everyone. Good luck and goodbye.